All right,
TWiT.
so Myriam, you brought in a pretty fine piece of hardware, if I do say so myself, the HTC One M9. What do you think?
I love it. It's the best. Here, let me show it in general view. Maybe okay, Brian. Oh, there you go. So you can see how small it is next to my gigantic head. There it is, the HTC
Next to the N6. Yeah, that's nothing.
Yeah, actually, let's do some quick comparisons. Maybe closer up here. I got the G Flex 2 here.
Okay.
So you can see. Let me just clear my notifications because it's probably not a good idea to show that to the entire world. So here we go. Whoa, there we go. So 5.5 versus 5 inches. Just to give you an idea, it's not a very big phone, as you can see. And you've got your Nexus.
Feels slim.
It is nice. Here's my Nexus. Again, lots of notifications to clear, but here we go. So whoa,
there we go.
Whoa. Okay. So as you see, the Nexus is just wrong.
Yeah.
It's all wrong.
I mean, the Nexus is a gigantic
How do you
phone,
feel about it? Because I had an iPhone 6 Plus for a while, and thankfully I'm back on Android. Whew. Oh, so good.
Good to have you back.
But you know what? I have to say, there are many things I miss about the 6 Plus now. But anyway, I'm diverting. But the point is, the Nexus 6 is just too freaking big. I just can't live with it. So I'm actually thinking this is right. Anyway.
Is it just right because it's now?
It's mostly right because it's HTC.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. You're an HTC
So, okay,
fan.
let's get started and say for the quick review is this is a phenomenal, fantastic phone. It's going to be one of the top 5 phones this year. No doubt about it. Except for the camera. And if you can live with that, get the phone. Don't even think about getting anything else.
Okay.
That's it. That's
Heard a
your
lot
review.
of people
5-second
complain about
review.
the cameras.
It's not a bad camera. It is the problem with the camera, it doesn't live up to 2015's expectations and standards for a flagship. It's serviceable. It'll take decent pictures. If you don't care, you won't notice and you'll be happy. But the bottom line is it's not good enough. In my opinion, they just have missed the mark. And in this ultra-competitive market we're in, ouch, this is going to hurt them big time. And that's the problem I have with it. So let's talk about the great stuff. Look at this thing. Silver and gold.
Yeah, I really like the kind of 2-color approach.
So I don't know if you
It's
can
very
see
sharp.
it very well here, but we've got silver in the back and then this kind of sharpish edge to gold all the way around. And you think it looks gimmicky, but in person, it
looks really good.
It is absolute
gold.
gold.
The device in general looks way better in person than I expected it to because, based on what I had seen on, read in blogs and all that kind of stuff.
I mean, let's do a quick design analysis. I don't have the M7 and M8 with me, but if you roll my review video, if you go quickly to my blog, briantankerl.com, you'll find that there's 4 review. Like, click on that link, click on that post. And then there's
1, 2, 3,
part
4.
3 is comparisons with other phones. And at the very beginning of that video, you will find the M7, M8, and M9 next to each other. Keep going a little bit, keep going. And that way you can see it. So, keep going further.
Okay.
Further.
So
there you go.
M7 on the
Okay.
left?
So at one point I flipped them over. There you go.
Okay.
So design analysis, can you pause for a sec? So design analysis, if you look very carefully, the M7 on the left was, in my opinion, the most beautiful HTC One. And the reason I don't like the M8 as much is because you see the corners, the radius is too big.
Yep.
And it looked blobby and Samsung-like to me.
Yep.
They've gone back to a smaller radius with the M9, and damn, it looks great. Look at it. It's gorgeous. And then if you fast forward a little bit, I flipped them over at some point. There you go. Keep going. So my hand's out of the way. Okay. So now you can kind of see the back. One generation just had the ultra pixel 4-megapixel camera with OIS at the time, which was a rock and killer and awesome. Then they removed OIS and added this gimmicky dual camera, but they gave us a dual color, dual LED flash. And now we have the same dual color, dual LED flash with a 20-megapixel rear camera. And so that's essentially the design changes in a nutshell. But the thing you can't see, and if you can bring me back to the close-up view here, Brian, the thing you can't see is that there's an illusion of this being a narrow phone because there's this gap here. There's a step. If you look carefully here, there's a step. So it goes from the glass to a little step to the edge. And it makes it feel in hand more like the M7, not as slippery, but it's still more better finished than the M7 was. So it's dirty.
catches a few finger marks.
Well,
here
I
and
don't know
there, but-
why it's so dirty, actually. Probably because I was getting food with it earlier. But it's this really beautiful finish from the M8. And but when you hold it, you feel like, hey, this is not going to fall out of my hand every freaking minute. Like
it's
the old one.
comfortable. It's comfortable.
Now, the other thing to keep in mind is the display is adequate for 2015, but I think it's a bit of a letdown. It's 1080p, 5 inches, 441 pixel per inch. Great display. Super LCD3, which means it's IPS.
Okay.
Has Gorilla Glass 4 on top. But check out the viewing angles. They kind of fade a bit, and it's unlikely for HTC. If you look at the M8, the M7, and even better, the One X, like it felt like the icons were floating right on the glass. You do this on this one, you can't even see anything.
Yeah, it's true.
And so I'm not quite sure why they did that. Possibly because it's easier to read in bright daylight. But it seems to me that they haven't really pushed the envelope with the display.
So your complaint isn't about the fact that it's 1080p, because personally I would say 1080p is probably
It's
just perfect
I mean,
for this for a battery
441
trade-off.
DPI.
But yeah, it does kind of look like
and
the viewing
and you
angles
don't
a
have to
little
worry
weak.
about the battery getting killed
Yeah,
because of
yeah,
Quad
exactly,
HD, right?
exactly.
So I don't think the resolution's a problem. It's just that it's don't get me wrong, this is a great display, but if you start looking at the competition, especially the OLED competition, you kind of go like, wait a minute, where are my viewing angles gone to, right? Now the guts are amazing. Snapdragon 810, it's so fast. It's like unbelievably fast. And the other thing you'll notice is, oops, I got a whole bunch of notifications. Let's see if I can do this. And I can go into the settings. So, you get the usual stuff here. It's running Android Lollipop 5.0, not 5.1, and it's HTC Sense 7 on top. So it's been skinned, but like the two-finger gesture, for example, as you saw, still works. So they've adopted a lot of things that we're familiar with from using Lollipop on an Nexus. And of course, you got the highlights magazine UI type thing here, and they've added this widget here. Let me see if I can show it to you. So you can actually put this widget anywhere, and it figures out where you are based on geolocation. You tell it where home, work, and out is just automatically when you're not home at work, and it changes the content of the app tray here. It learns. It's kind of like what's that launcher that's like that?
There's a few. Is it Cover? Or
there's a couple.
There's a few that do this.
And so you have settings in here to change that stuff. Set location, and then these smart folders.
AV8.
AV8 is the one I'm thinking about. So here are your downloaded apps automatically gathered in one place. This suggestion stuff is kind of wonky. It also actually brings up sometimes. It's brought up malware for some people.
Oh,
so I don't know how good that is. Then there's a whole great thing here. Let me bring back to home about themes. You can theme the whole phone. It's a big deal. I just did a factory reset the other day. So this whole thing that HTC is pushing here is that you can customize your phone like down to the fonts and stuff, and it's really nicely integrated and packaged together. I have no idea why it's taking so long, but this is an international version, so it doesn't do LTE in the US. It has LTE bands, obviously, but don't buy the international version if you're on AT&T or T-Mobile. It's not going to help you. You'll probably want to wait for some sort of US-centric model. So here you go. You can see a whole bunch of themes you can install. And this is really well done. I played with it and then got a firmware update, and I wanted to reset the phone after the firmware update, and I haven't played with it since. So in terms of guts, yes, if you have an M8, this is an upgrade. There's absolutely no doubt about it. 3 gigs of RAM, 32 gigs of storage. You got the micro SD card slot on on this side here. Along the power lock key's been relocated from the top to the side here. It's etched so you can feel it, but it's a little low.
So it sets it apart.
Yeah, but
apart
I
from the
wish
other
it still had a real volume rocker that wasn't two separate buttons.
Yeah, it gets confusing.
Because if you're a Nokia user, it's to the right place. But if you're a Nexus user,
I was going to say on the Nexus 6,
or a
it's
Samsung user or an LG user, you're like, oh, this is not the right place. Other than that, it's pretty much the same layout as this here, as you can see. The boom sound speakers sound even better. It's unbelievable. It's like, how can they do it better? Yes, they did.
Nice.
And then it has a Dolby Surround, Dolby 5.1 virtualization. So if you have a Dolby 5.1 content, it'll play it back with virtual surround sound. Stuff will sound like it's coming from behind you. It's uncanny. And then the front-facing camera is now ultra-pixel, so it's 4-megapixel ultra-pixel.
What used to be on the back.
Right, but not autofocus, strangely.
Okay.
Whereas when you think about it, the HTC Eye had autofocus on the front camera.
Yeah.
So why did they kind of cheapened out a bit there? And then, so let's talk about kind of the Achilles heel. The thing that if you watch my Before You Buy preview or my own review on my site, you'll know what I'm talking about. And that's the camera disappointment. And you're going to say, well, why is it so bad? It's not bad. It's just not great. It's 20 megapixels. That means the pixels are really tiny. It means that in low light, you get a lot of noise.
Yeah.
I've only picked the best and kept the best photos out of this here. And
Pretty dark,
but it is kind of dark and dull.
Yeah,
and
dull.
if you zoom in on that previous one with the cactus, you'll see that there's a lot of detail here. I don't know if you have the ability to do that without losing resolution, Brian, but there's quite a bit of detail on that, which is great. So the detail's back because you now have 20 megapixels, but in low light, it just falls apart. Like most of those pictures, if I wait another half hour, I would have gotten like a Picasso as far as the amount of blotchiness created by the noise reduction. And that's the biggest flaw. And of course, you're going to say, well, why wouldn't that be a problem? Clearly, this is a flagship. It must have OIS. F word. No, it does not have OIS. And that is exactly the freaking problem.
Oh.
And so that kills it. For me, it's like, it's okay.
Because you place a lot of emphasis on taking pictures with your smartphone.
And also, here's the other thing. You can buy an iPhone 6 without OIS that beats this thing every single time, at every single picture you take.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have OIS, and it's probably the most popular smartphone on the planet today. Well, maybe not. But it's arguably one of the most popular. And so if Apple can pull it off, why can't HTC, with their years and years of imaging experience, pull it off? And that's the thing that's vexing me about this phone. I love it. I love it. I love it. It's the most beautiful design, in my opinion, and one of the fastest I've ever used on Android. And the skin is light and doesn't feel like it's in a way. I'm sure TouchWiz is going to piss us off when we get our S6s and S6 Edges. But I tell you what, that camera on the S6 from my time at Mobile World Congress,
it's gonna rock.
Unbeatable. It's going to be the iPhone 6 of Android phones when it comes to the camera. It's going to nail every shot every single time. You're going to be able to take pictures of your kids like you've never done before. So
if I have an S6.
That is my quick, view of this beautiful phone.
And you have a full review of this coming up on Before You Buy.
Well, I hope so. I'm not sure.
Or maybe it was just a preview.
On what Padre wants to do.
Gotcha.
But basically, we had this opportunity to do the preview because the embargo was lifted. Right after TWiT on Sunday. And I said, you know what? I've only had it like 48 hours. And in fact, all the photos you saw were taken on my drive home from the Before You Buy show.
Okay.
I took a whole bunch of pictures at night in my house because I can compare of all these other phones. So even though they're not really pretty pictures, I can say like, okay, this is noisy and terrible. Right? But that's just to get a baseline. But I had barely touched the thing, sadly. Cool. So
we'll definitely go over to tankgrl.com, tnkgrl.com. You can check out kind of the full 3.5 parts because another one was in there for the preview.
Yeah, well, I put our preview in there because it's great. So it's 30 minutes of madness. Just go, seriously. I shot it and I'm like 2 hours from the embargo and I'm like, oh crap, I have to edit this now.
Oh boy, that's
I was like, I'm going to divvy it up in 3. So I published the first one on time and then the other ones later.
That works. Excellent stuff. Well, thank you for bringing that in. It's a very impressive looking device. I like it from that perspective. Too bad that the camera doesn't hold up though.
I mean, again, I'm being picky here.
Yeah, but that's
it is
what you got to do.
But it's still not as good as an LG G3 or an iPhone. And then it's better than it's about the same as the Z3 and Z3 Compact. Lack of OIS really is a problem. What else did I compare it to? It's about the same as the GS5. So the Note 4, as we know, is probably the best Android camera phone today. The Nexus 6 is pretty damn great too, but they both have OIS. So it's kind of, you can't compare.
Right.